Hey everybody, we are back. Welcome to another episode of More Than a Title. I'm your host as usual, Jarrett Thomas, Chief Revenue Officer at Outside the Box Digital. And before we start, I want to say thank you for all the love, the support. Can't believe we on season 3 already, y'all. Thank you for the comments, the likes, the shares. Like, we can't tell you how much it means to us, man, and how much you've been keeping the brand alive. And so we're going to hit y'all with some crazy content. We got a great lineup for y'all this season. We're going to give y'all some new looks. I also have a new co-host rocking with me, my brother, my family, Chadeo, CEO at Outside the Box Digital. I'll let you give your intro, broski. Let's get him.
I mean, I'm just happy to be here. You know, Chadeo, Chad Fernandez is my name. I'm just happy to be here. I'm excited, man. Season 3, the energy's here. You know, we've had 2 successful seasons. I've been behind the boards, but now it's game time. I'm ready. Put me in, coach.
He got his boots laced. I've been riding the pine too long. I said, put my boy in camera.
Let's go.
But man, I'm so glad to have you on, bro. You know, I love you for free, man. And I want to introduce this guest we have today. Like, this queen is bad. We've met her recently at Podfest down in Orlando. And when we heard her story, just off the bat, we knew we had to work with her in some capacity. We had to partner with her in some way. And we wanted the opportunity for her to tell her story and what her amazing journey's been like. So she's been in the industry for close to 20 years, worked at places like Bloomberg, AARP, founded her own business for women advocacy, and also the owner of the first Black-owned, woman-owned podcast network in the country or in the world. And we're going to claim her right here. So I want you guys to please give a warm welcome to our incredible guest today, Angel Livas. What's up, Queen?
What's going on?
Hi, guys.
Do the celebration music.
Yeah, we
Let's celebrate this queen right here, man. She is a trailblazer.
That's a whole fact. So let's start from there, because we usually get into your background. I want to get into how you got into sales and all that stuff too. But I'm curious. I'm gonna start right off the back. What made you come up with the idea of a live podcast?
Good question. So I've actually been in media for 23 years. And in that time and space, up until 3 years ago, I had never worked with a Black content creator. And so I was used to seeing how white content creators were treated. And when I say white content creators, I'm talking Larry King, Jane Pauley, and the list goes on with some of the people that I've worked with. But the level of amplification of their content, the marketing, the revenue that they were able to generate, not just from external sources paying to like tune in, but the networks that they were a part of, like what they would provide them financially, right? And so when I started working with like Black content creators on the celebrity side as well, I started to see like, y'all ain't treated the same way these people I've worked with for the last 20 years have been treated. Like, what's going on? And so the immediate disparity that like I noticed was key. Then there was one show that I worked on that was like a mental health type show. And the show had got canceled. And one of the listeners had wrote in after the show was canceled and said, hey, when I started listening to this show, I was recently diagnosed with anxiety and depression. He was like, I couldn't afford therapy. So this became my weekly accountability partner. This show became where I would check in every week to make sure I was on track. And he's like, now that this show is gone, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I can't afford therapy. I can't like just go and get help. And so that hit me like real hard, because I realized a lot of times like these large companies, they're just looking at the bottom line, like how much money are they generating and all of that. But for the Black community, I feel like a responsibility is there for us to have content and entertainment for people who need an outlet, who need a place where they're actually being healed. And it's more to them than just like a hee ha ha moment, but it's like healing, recovery, and being able to move forward and pursue their dreams. And so out of that experience, or those experiences, Alive was birthed.
That's real, sis. That's you hit on. That's a major problem, right? The way the Black creators, first of all, the creator economy, right? the way Black creators are being paid, the way they're being amplified versus white content creators. And I've seen it myself, you know what I mean? So, but the problem is there's no transparency. So how would somebody like myself as a Black content creator know what John Smith is making or how his treatment is? And then what I'm curious for you, sis, is like, you saw this, but what made you want to get on the front line? Because it's so challenging to wave the flag and talk about something that nobody wants to talk about. And you created a business around it.
Well, for me, it was, this is my playground. Like, I've been doing it so long that it's like second nature for me. And so while a lot of people dove into like the podcasting space, especially during COVID, that wasn't my truth. Like, this is literally like, I've worked in media, specifically audio and video production, but like radio for since 2000. And so when that is like really like your passion, and you know that you have the ability to tap in, help people and activate them to something that people aren't really educating them. But that's another entity of Alive. Like, our goal is to educate. Like, how can we make you your absolute best self when you are delivering content? How can we make sure that the audio quality is something that people are going to want to listen to, that your content is enriching and it connects to your audience, and like they want to continue tapping back in week after week? Like, those are the things that are key. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. It wasn't a sit back, ooh, who gonna do this? I was the person chosen for it. And it's just up to me to step up to the task and execute. So
that's real.
I mean, listen, I mean, a lot of us at times feel like we feel strongly about a cause, right? So this is the piggyback off of what Jarrett said. But there's a big difference between, and this is what's happening today in society in general. You can feel strongly about a cause, and a lot of people feel strongly about a cause, but it's who's going to take up the mantle. Who's going to be that first one to say, I'll stand in front, I'll take the hits, I'll take the beatings, I'll take the criticism that is going to, when you're in the front, you take everything. You got to have big shoulders. You got to have big shoulders. You could, because now that what you said was, not only am I going to do this, but I'm going to be the face of this, right? So I mean, congrats to you, because that puts you in a very delicate position, because now technically you're like, I'll be the martyr for this cause.
Yeah,
you understand?
And
I'll be the martyr for this cause.
To go back to the question, also, I think the reason why I knew that I was the person that could do it, and this is like one of those investor questions, like, why are you the person that we should invest this money in? Like, what makes you think that you can execute this better than somebody else? I have the accolades behind my name, like, because of the people that I've worked with, because of the awards that we've won throughout the trajectory of my career. Like, even last year when we first launched Alive, like one of the shows that I created under construction with Tamar Braxton, we were up for an NAACP Image Award, and that show is on our network. So
nice.
That's why, like, it's not, again, it's the showing and proving, like, I didn't just get here. I didn't just say, oh, I want to do this. I've worked my butt off to be in the position to be able to help others now. And so now that's the social responsibility that I have, not only to myself and my family, but to my culture.
That's real, sis. I love that, sis. And you said something else that I wanted to touch on that's super important, is the investment money, because the reason why that's so important is that Black and minority groups are less funded, especially in the tech world, right? So I'm curious, what advice would you give to other, Black professionals, entrepreneurs, to help get investment or seed money to start up their next big idea?
So that's a great question. So last night I was with the CEO of Monumental Sports, Ted, and Ted actually started AOL and all this other stuff, right? He owns the Washington Mystics, the Wizards, the Capitals. And one of the things that I
said big bank.
Oh yeah. He's
big
the whole
bank.
time, right?
Yeah, big bank.
The thing that I appreciated from him is, like, he shared his early stories, like his moments of failure, the lessons learned. And the one thing that he said, even around investing, a lot of times people are trying to go after the $100 million, but what they don't realize is, like, your level of ownership is completely diluted when you're constantly getting all of these investment dollars. However, if you need the investment, be authentic to who you are, what it is that you're doing, know your differentiators, and know, like, hey, know your numbers. Like a lot of us, we know our ideas, but we don't know, like at the end of 2 months, how much revenue should you be having? Like, what's your trajectory? Like, what's your KPIs? Like, how many hosts do you need to have to reach your benchmark? How many new subscribers do you need to have? Like, regardless of what your industry is, you need to be able to look at it and say, okay, I know I have to do X, Y, and Z so I can get this amount of money, because that's what investors care about. They want to know that they can 10, 12x their money. Like, they don't want to know, like, oh, I doubled. Okay, I could have, did the stock market for that. But like, how can I help a startup and really invest in community and what it is that they're building and really be a shareholder in something like amazing? And so like that comes with like, so for me, I was really proud because I knew nothing about Techstars when I got into it. And this is so bad. But like, we became a Techstars portfolio company after 5 months. Like, we got accepted into Techstars after our company was only 5 months old. Nice. And so most of the other people who were in the program had applied to Techstars like 3 and 4 times and was rejected, didn't get in. And this was like, they're like, okay, this was my last time applying. And then they got in. And so for me, that was like another testament to what Alive is and what the vision for Alive is, and being able to articulate it. And that's the other thing. A lot of times, like, we have these ideas, but we don't know how to speak clear English to articulate what the vision is, what the takeaways are, and what is it worthwhile for the investor or the listener or the consumer. If you can't articulate.
Let me touch on that though. Let me touch on that, because it's something very important that we have to add to that, right? Mm-hmm. There's a big difference between a person that is creatively just explosive and somebody who is proficient in education, right? You can be an artist, you can be a leader. I know a lot of people that are great leaders. They're great speakers and things of that nature, but they're just not very highly educated. You know what I mean? It's very hard to be the person that has all of these things meshed together so that you can even think about starting this. And this is why it's so important to have a team and a support system. I tell people all the time, like, you could be the greatest person in the world, but if I have the greatest team in the world, we're gonna outwork you. We're gonna outdo you, because it alleviates some of the pressure, or a lot of the pressure that one person has to try to figure out so many different avenues. Think about everything you just said. Everything you just said is a different avenue of education, right? You could be in media and understand media, learn programming and this and that, and you can learn that, right? Then you have to learn business, then you have to learn tech, and then it's so much information that it can overwhelm you. And that's what happens to a lot of people that are just super creative. They have the ideas. How many people have you ever talked to that have billion-dollar ideas, or see something that came out like, yo, I thought of that 20 years ago. I thought of that 10 years. Look at that. Look at it on a napkin. And I go, why you never did that? Because I didn't know how. That's what I want to touch on. What I think is so important that we are lacking in our community in general is the connection between having the idea to do something and the knowledge to execute it, and to at least get it started. I'm not saying push it all the way through, right? Yeah. But too many times, our community, we spin our wheels because we get fed misinformation, or we don't get information. So we spend so much time trying to look for it or trying to figure it out that a lot of people just end up giving up.
Yeah.
I want to say yes and no. You have a lot of people who have great ideas, but they're not interested in the execution.
Facts.
Of the idea.
Okay. Talk to me then. When you say the execution of the idea. So if I have an idea, let's say I thought of Uber Eats, right? Let's say I thought of Uber Eats, right? Hey man, we always eat and we always ordering out. Why don't we have a delivery service to, bring it to us? But how am I not thinking about the execution of it? I mean,
no, some people get caught up in the logistics and be like, it's too hard, it's too difficult to understand. That's why they get part of a system. That's why there's not so many entrepreneurs, right? They get stuck on what is the next step. The idea is great, but what do I do? Which is actually a good segue, sis, because I would love to know, what was the biggest obstacle you faced as you were starting Alive? What was one thing that was just a roadblock? You was like, damn, how do I get over this? And what was that process to get over or overcome that?
Okay, so for me, the biggest obstacle was tech. Because to like what Chadeo said, I know media through and through. I know business through and through, right? But because I am not a techie, like it lends opportunity for people to use you and just say that they can do all of these things. And you're trusting, because if somebody were to come to me and be like, yo, I need help sis with like X, Y, and Z around media or a podcast or starting a commercial or whatever, I can tell you A to Z, like what you need to do. And if I need to execute it, I can do that.
Yep.
The disparity that exists between founders and techies is like ridiculous. Like so I've gone through,
It's a whole different world. That's what I'm saying. Like the information is so different. It's
language.
like,
it's a
totally different.
Right.
And so, like in my case, I've gone through 3 tech developers. I've had a CFO that I no longer have. I had a tech company that I was working with that I'm no longer working with. I had a backup that like, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? And now I'm like literally on my 4th developer in a year. My 4th developer. So if I'm on my 4th developer, just imagine how much money I've spent. I've spent like some bank now.
And look at this. And that's at the level that you're at. See? And that's at the level that you're at. So imagine now somebody without the resources that you have, somebody without the connections that you have, and without the not only the information, but the expertise to realize this ain't working and be able to pull out while you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also, another good point is that most Black entrepreneurs wouldn't even have the investment or the capital to make that one mistake. So that's the issue. Like, how do we get past that one mistake? And like you're saying, you're working with devs, you're working with people talking about SEO, coding, all these different things. You're like, damn, I need you to know your shit and be on top of it. I can't go for a round 2 or round 3, and it's taking our time to go to market. It's taken away from time for delivering to customers and all these different things, and you still went through it. So that's why, and even that's why actually the investment question, because now if I'm an investor, like you have to go through that, right? I heard a real line and it made me think of you when you just said this. It was greatness is birth at challenge, and with greatness is birth at challenge and struggle. And that's basically what it is. Like, you have to go through that shit. You have to go through the process. You have to go through the bad devs to know what a good dev is. You have to know what a bad investment is to know what a good investment is. You're going through it. And that's the real part. So I applaud you for it, sis. Real talk.
Yeah. Like, I mean, anybody who is like going through like that, you want to build a tech, like you have to make sure that everything is documented. So I'll give one example. So we were having a conversation with the devs team, and I'm like, okay, it's a podcast, right? So I was like, we want to make sure that there's ads integrated into the content. Now, it's my fault. Like, even if it wasn't my fault, I will take ounce. Like, if I feel like there's a slightest opportunity that I wasn't clear, right? So they come back to me and they've like added ads to like the screen. I'm like, I said the content, like, so it's a podcast, so I need audio ads embedded in the audio. Like, what is this? Like, this isn't it. And that whole thing like threw us off like 3 months. And it was just like, really? And so understanding that when you're doing something very unique and different, and what I've learned is what I'm building is very unique and different, right? And so, because it's different than Spotify, it's different than it's a very different platform, right? But what I had to realize is that because it's so different, I have to take the responsibility and the time to educate these developers. Because what developers will tell you in a heartbeat, and this, I hate this line. You be like, yo, can you do this? Oh yeah, I'm a developer. I'm a coder. I can do it. Like, as long as you got budget and time, we can make anything happen. Budget and time.
Then in 3 years, it still ain't done. Oh, I thought you meant that.
Exactly. And so what I learned was that as long as I have budget for you to figure it out, that's what that means. It doesn't mean I know how to do it and I can just go in the closet and code. No, it means I'm going to go through trial and error, but as long as you're going to pay me to sit here and figure it out, I can figure it out. Yeah, no, I ain't got time for that. I'm going to need you to figure it out before I onboard you to do X, Y, and Z tasks. So yeah, that part was a huge struggle for me.
That's real. That's crazy, man. And then moving that, because sis, as we move forward, as I hear more about your story, it makes me want to know more about how your upbringing, right, and how you got this strength, right, like to go through it, because most entrepreneurs aren't going to do it, and you're doing something very special in a unique space, right? That's very important. So, sis, tell us a little bit about how you actually got into the industry. Like, what was that like? Like, right after high school, what was up? Like, you went into college,
internship,
media thing. Like, where did the passion for media come from?
How many coffees did you get for Larry King?
No sugar, all black.
No sugar. How does he like the coffee?
By the time I negotiated the deal with Larry King for us to do his programming, and I was his EP and producer. So I was fortunate that I never had to go get coffee for any of the people that I work with.
Okay.
Let them know. Jordan, add a bomb there.
Listen, that wasn't a huge pat on her own back. That was just a different little, like, you know what I mean?
That was an alley-oop.
She said, I don't do coffee.
So no, not that I wouldn't though. Like I'm that person who's never. I would get coffee for people to this day. Like, but I just never had to. Right. But anyway, so I was very blessed and fortunate to have the parents that I have. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. Like my parents started a real estate company like the year they got married. So the very first house that my dad bought went under a real estate company. And then he started buying other properties from that day forward. So he was, my mom was 18. So, and they've been married like 40, it'll be 43 years this week.
Congrats.
Let's clap for that too.
Word. Black love, man. Shout out to the parents. Black love, baby.
2023, you're not even here nowhere near those 43 years. You'd be lucky you married 43 months.
43 minutes.
You got married in Vegas at the Elvis joint. Before you walked out, you was like, you know what? I sobered up. Let's know this right now.
Because of that upbringing and like this, they still have the same real estate company and all of that. Like I grew up understanding the hustle. I grew up like, they may have had like jobs here and there that they may have just did or whatever. But at the end of the day, that entrepreneurial spirit, it's been ingrained in me. So I was actually having a conversation on another show the other day where I was saying, and I'm a huge daddy's girl. So I would literally like love going over to the houses with my dad to go collect the rent. Back in the day, they weren't selling you your payment. You know what I mean? They weren't uploading it, directly to your bank account. Like you went to collect rent. I enjoyed like cleaning out houses and painting and, getting a house ready for the next tenant to move in. So like, for me, like the grind has always like, I understood it, I respected it, and I enjoyed it. Right. And so like, that was like that side of it. But I think because I've always been immersed in the entrepreneurship, I've always had this, my dad always told me this. He said, you can work for a company and you can be the absolute best employee that they have. But at any moment, they can come to you and say, thank you for your service, but we no longer need you. That has been ingrained in me. And
I think we've all, I could be a test. I've experienced that at least 5 times in my career. And that's off the top of my head. Yeah. Never late, never absent. You know what I mean? And I'm the first one to get in trouble. Ain't nobody else here. If I leave, you get nothing done. And yeah, absolutely. That's right. And Matt, I know, part of your journey, you've experienced this to get you to this point too, Jarrett.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all have. Like, and that's why we start our own. We want to set, first of all, I wanted something sustainable for my kids, right? If I can't go in there 18, I'm a top performer and I'm selling X amount of millions for you, and I can't bring my son in and train him and get him a job, then there's nothing else for us to talk about. So like, and I've experienced, and it's definitely in tech. It's so up and down. Doesn't matter what it is. It's too much politics. It doesn't matter. You can be the top performer, all that stuff. So you're absolutely right, Angel. But I'm curious too, sis, like why not real estate and why media? Because that seems like you had the layup.
I do have a real estate company.
Oh, okay. Cool. Dope.
I do. And I
no, that's like
just so you know, I'm on the side with a bullet notes. She owns this, owns that. I'm just keeping tabs. At the end of the day, I'm gonna just let you know your accolades. How many accolades we got?
No, I mean, it was just it made sense. Like, you know, I remember like right after college, my dad called me and was like, "Yo, there's all these houses in Detroit that are going on auction. You should grab some." And I was like, "Okay." And so, I mean, my dad is right there. He knows the blocks. Like, he knows like which ones ain't that bad that he can run in there, throw a team in there, fix it up, get some renters in there. Right. And so that's essentially like what happened. Like, so I bought like a few houses, put them under a company name. My dad was like the property manager over them. So yeah, like, I mean, I have that side of me too, because I know real estate. My mom's a broker. So there's like elements that she adds to the company and things like that. But at the end of the day, the thing I also appreciate about my parents, like, they never forced anything on me.
Yeah,
like,
that's key.
Real estate wasn't my first love.
But you got the cheat code. I gotta jump in. I love the story, but you got the cheat code. You got the cheat code because
what's the cheat code?
The cheat code is what me and Jarrett are trying to accomplish, is what your parents have already done, and which is create generational wealth. Even if your father didn't help you buy anything, by him even doing what he was doing, by him showing you that
he manages.
But I'm showing you something, right? I'm showing you something, right? Because that's super important that you said that. We cannot move past that. By you growing up in a household and not seeing your parents work a 9 to 5, right? With you understanding that there is a life and a possibility of being your own boss, right? They're putting the seeds in your brain early that you don't have to be a worker for the rest of your life. Where we come from, most people, you know what they want to do? They want to get a city job. They want to get a city job. You know why? Because of the stability, because their mother got a city job. So that's why he asked you, why not real estate? Because, everybody's family's a doctor, they go into medicine, everybody's family's a lawyer. It's the same thing. If everybody in the neighborhood is playing it safe, or, have city jobs or safe jobs, then that's the message that they're going to teach to their youth, even subconsciously. Because even if you don't say nothing, if your child watches you get up every day, tired, go work for whoever you work for, come back dirty, you complaining about the money, you get fired, that plays in their mind. So when they go to think about a career or development or anything like that, that's the first thing they're going to think about. But it's nothing wrong with the cheat code, right? It's nothing wrong. This is what we
need more cheat codes in our community.
We are aspiring to create this cheat code for more people, but we have to acknowledge that was the springboard for you, right? Because before you even knew what you wanted to do, you were being programmed to say it's possible. It is possible. And that right there is what we're missing in our society, is the fact that a lot of our children don't understand that it is possible.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, I had it on the flip side though, bro. Yeah. For people who don't, especially in our community, who might not have it. Like, I was fortunate to have both my parents, sis, and my mom was an assistant principal. My pops worked from 7 in the morning to 12 o'clock at night for 27 years to retire, to put us through parochial school, straight up and down. Realest dude I ever know. Like, and my mom too. Like, so for me looking at that, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So it's just up to you, and whatever your situation is, to understand what you're in right now and what you really want for yourself out of life. If you see your parents busting your ass and they're doing 9 to 5s and you don't want that, what are you going to do to change your situation? How can we make it that we have the label? Like you said, how do we create cheat codes for our kids? We need this shit. We absolutely have to. So that's why I love that the chat honed in on that, because that's so important for us. If somebody out here probably listens to it, it's like, I don't have the cheat code. What the hell do I do? Angel, I want to start my own thing. What do I do? But it's mindset. But it's mindset, though. It's your mindset.
And what's so important about understanding what the cheat code is, it doesn't mean, when we say generational wealth building, we don't mean just money. A lot of it is education. It's education.
And exposure.
Yeah, and exposure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So like you said, you was exposed to it. It got your juices flowing. It got your energy. So when you had the opportunity, you're like, oh, I'm ready. I've been doing this. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to ask you a funny story. So, back in the day when you said you was you said Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't say Detroit, but yes, Detroit.
You didn't say Detroit?
I didn't say anything.
I could have sworn you said when you came out.
I thought I heard you say you bought a house in Detroit.
You said when you came out of college.
Oh, I did buy a house in Detroit, yes.
Okay, I'm about to say,
I thought you said when I was riding with my dad in Detroit. I'm like, I didn't say that.
So let's go back to your dad. I just want to hear a story real quick. So, back in the day, it wasn't no Zelle, no Venmo and all that. tell us a funny story. Have you ever knocked on somebody's door and they turn the lights out on you and act like they wasn't there? How many times have you tried to go collect rent with that and nobody answered? I know you got a story where nobody answered the door. You can hear him walking around inside or something.
No, so my dad was really good about like calling and letting them know like he was coming, or they would call and let him know, like, yo, Mr. Todd, we got your rent. Okay. So that was kind of like the process. Now, no, there were many
no horror stories. No, nobody.
I think the horror stories were more like,
you came for the rent and the pit bull came out the door.
No, I think the horror stories were more like just how trifling people live.
Okay.
Like, if you ever like had to like put somebody out, but you see the way they're living,
right?
You're like, hold up. Even and okay, so I have one horror story.
You're a child at this point, so you're processing this as a child. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yes.
It's different for you to process it as an adult that understands business and blah blah blah. But you're like you said, you were a child learning this, so obviously to you that looks different.
It looked real trifling. I was like, oh, people live like this, like. Like real. It was really bad.
Right.
And I will say, okay, so when I bought my first house, I was 23. I bought my first house in Maryland. And when I was about to get married, I started renting it out. And just because, that cycle of, okay, I own it, I'm gonna rent it out. I had a tenant and I thought she was gonna be great, right? She didn't have any kids. It was just her and her boyfriend.
Right.
I remember, like, one of the things that I had in my contract is that I will do random visits just to check on the status of the house, because I didn't want what I grew up seeing, right? One day, I went over for my random visit. I almost had to call the cops on this lady. Like, she was like, oh, she was ready to fight me. I'm not letting you in. I'm like, it's in your lease agreement that there'll be random checks. Like, I'm not trying to, like, I'm not taking nothing. I'm not, girl, and you behind on your rent.
So, did you have a key? Did you just walk in on them, or did you actually knock?
No, I wouldn't do that. Like, I knocked and all that. She came to the door, and this was my red flag. I looked, and like when she moved in, this house, like, it was completely renovated. It was beautiful, right?
Right.
It is all of this like hair cake, like literally, like the door cracked, and it's all of this hair caked in along the baseboards. And I'm like,
hair, like from a dog, or like from like weaves, like bad weaves.
I couldn't tell. Like, I couldn't tell if it was like hers or an animal's. But like, as soon as you open the door, why is it that much hair caked into the thing? So that really triggered my, like, I need to come in.
Right.
I had to go through the police. Anyways, when I finally got in that house, when I say I had to take out an insurance policy to redo that house, like, this woman, she let her animals like
dogs,
like it was a mess. It was so bad.
Yeah,
it was so bad.
So was that the reason you was like, F this, I'm going to media?
That's when she quit. That's when she quit and said, I'm not doing no more real estate.
No, the media was
TV shows look like.
Yo, like, I mean, that was in my 20s, but like, I was already in media. Like, by that point, I had a degree in broadcast journalism. I think I was on my second degree. But like, media for me, it was so I was that kid that always got in trouble for talking. I always had great grades. Like, I graduated magna cum laude. I graduated high school with honors. Like, I just talked too much. And so I was like, okay, well, how can I make money doing the one thing that I love doing?
Or can't stop doing.
What?
I said, or can't stop doing. Depending on who you ask, right?
Jordan's bomb that, edit it. Joking with you. Bomb it, edit it, cut it out. No, joking with you.
Okay.
No, but like, it literally became like, I remember like people used to make fun of the way I talk because they were like, oh, you sound like a Valley girl. Oh, you sound like a white girl. Like, we don't know if you black or white. Like, what? I used to get made fun of all the time. And I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit. And so now I look back on that and I'm like, yeah, the very thing y'all was making fun of me for is the main thing that I'm making money from.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that. But I want to talk about that too, because I used to do the same thing. First of all, I did it intentionally in sales. So I would be that way. I know you ever seen that meme where it's the Carlton Banks, like at work, you got the Carlton Banks, and as soon as you get off work, it's the Tupac. You seen that meme before?
Yeah.
That's me. That's me in a nutshell. That's me in a nutshell. So when I go to work, right, it's the phone voice, right? I'm talking to somebody. It's, hey, how are you? I'm Jarrett Thomas.
Oh, I know the phone voice. I've made fun of you for the phone voice a couple of times. Yeah, I've made fun of you for that a couple of times.
But real talk, once I stopped that, I made more money than I ever made in my life. I just stopped. Once the pandemic and all that shit hit, I was just like, yeah, I'm over it. I'm going to show up as me. I'm going to show up with the hoodie, the hat on. If you don't want to do business with me, if you don't see through this, you weren't going to do business with me anyway, sis. But I'm curious, like, what would you say to other, like, at least Black females or other Black younger, professionals? Because I always preach authenticity. I preach get away from that, get away from the phone voice, be you, because we're so naturally dope that we can do anything the hell we want, right? So, like, I'm curious how you feel about that, because you're saying the phone voice worked and also made you successful. But do you feel like you're at a point in your career where you could stop that?
It wasn't a phone voice.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. It was just how I spoke.
Oh, wait, my fault. I thought you was doing it purposely. My fault for the money.
No,
my bad. Don't cut that out, Jordan.
I said you can't help it. Didn't I say that earlier? I said you can't help it.
Her natural tone is money.
Her natural tone is Mariah. Always talk like you know what I'm saying?
That was the thing.
Mariah, you can't turn it off. You know what I'm saying?
That was literally how I spoke. Like,
right.
That's real.
It was like this all the time.
And
so when people would say, I'd be like, well, I don't change. Like, this is it. Like, whether I'm sitting at the dinner table with my family, this is what they get, or I'm on air.
That's love.
I got a question to piggyback off of what Jarrett said about the authenticity. This, for me, comes up a lot. I've been in the music industry for a long time, and we've had this conversation a long, long time, and you touched on it before. Again, I understand authenticity, but I have a degree in business as well, and I also understand business, right? There's a lot of times when how do you find balance, right, between being authentic, but you got to keep the lights on, right? You want to be authentic, but you got to keep the lights on. You want to be authentic and you want to put out what you feel like is your best creative material, but you want to do deals with these companies that, let's just air quotes say, are not in the same demographic or regional basis understanding as you are, and you have completely different views, right? How do you balance that, right? And when do you, and I'm gonna ask you straight up, like, have you ever been like, listen, I might have to sacrifice the creativity for the bag? You know what I mean? Because we got to keep the lights on, like, because at the end of the day, if what you're doing is to promote this, if what you're doing is to take the mantle and be the front and be the voice, you have to still keep yourself in position, right? Sacrifices sometimes have to be made for you to stay in position, for you to keep this movement going. You know what I mean? So have you ever, kind of like sacrificed the creativity for the bag? You know what I mean? To keep the lights on?
No.
Okay. Okay.
But again, in fairness, I've been doing this so long that, and okay, so I feel like there's many ways that you can do things, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the creative space. If you're funding or you're sponsoring something with Alive, you're sponsoring Alive. But I have a whole lot of other media entities that if I'm not doing it over here, well, actually, if I'm not doing it over here, I can do it somewhere else. Example.
Okay.
I would say maybe 2 years ago, I think Ebony was trying to come out with a podcast network. They had been in talks with me about having a show on the network. And at the time, I had created a show called The Devil Is a Lie. They came back to me and was like, oh, that's too controversial. We don't want to turn potential advertisers off.
This is Ebony the magazine, right? The little small magazine we used to see in the 70s on our grandma table? Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were trying to come out with a Black podcast network and all that. And so I said, okay. Like, I passed. And The Devil Is Alive was the second show on my network when I launched.
That's real. And shout out to the Ebony Network, too. My fault. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, but like for me, I'm not for everybody. And so I can't always try to fit into everybody else's buckets. And I think that's what's wrong with us as a society is our values, our morals, we put beneath financial gain, if that makes sense. Or
maybe not financial gain, but what about just financial stability, or just enough finances just to eat? You know what I mean? Like,
so I think if you're in a situation where
you gotta eat.
If you're in a situation where it's life or death, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you're gonna have to put your pride aside if you don't like, if you gotta create content about horses and you really could care less about horses, but it's gonna put money in your pocket.
Right.
But that's not changing your values. Like, even, and I think it depends, like, because I feel like you, as a creative, you can create content around things that you don't believe in. Like, I've worked with a host that was an atheist. Our show didn't have anything to do with religion or anything like that, but I knew he was an atheist. Does that mean that I can't work with him? No. It just means I understand what your religious views are, and we just keep that off the table. We focus on what is the job at hand. What are we supposed to be creating, producing, and executing at the end of the day? And I think sometimes that's another thing that people get wrapped up in. Like somebody's political views, religious views, sexual views, you're not sleeping with them, you're not going home with them. What difference does it make to you? And so we sometimes bid ourselves out of opportunities because we get so focused on things that are not morally right to us. So there are people that I know who have missed opportunities because they don't like gay people, or they don't believe in gay people, or whatever.
I gotta play devil's advocate. I've definitely passed on opportunities that I do not believe aligned with my moral character.
Is it the content?
I believe you have to, huh?
Is it the
she's talking from a content perspective?
No, I'm talking about content. I'm talking about content. I'm talking about content. And I don't want to get like crazy, but I'm just saying, like, everybody has their moral compass, right? Everybody was raised a certain way, and they have their value system is what helps shape us into who we are, right? So my value system is what it is. If somebody's coming to me saying, listen, I know you need this money, but I'm putting out this content, and I go, I can't support that, because even if I'm not doing it myself, even if I don't believe in it myself, if I put my name on that and I help produce that and put that out to the masses, I'm just as bad. So I gotta play devil's advocate, and I gotta say there has to be a line drawn. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and he's in the news, so let's just talk about, like, let's just say like a R. Kelly situation. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm sitting around and he like, yeah, we getting this bag and that, I'm like, you dealing with little girls, like little girls. Like, I don't. You understand what I'm saying? He like, yeah, but you dealing with little girls.
But you
like,
asked me if you need the financial. I agree, but if you, I felt like what you asked me was kind of like, you need the money. Like, no, I feel like there are certain times where people feel like their backs are completely up against the wall, and as long as they're not doing anything illegal or whatever, then they're gonna be like, yo, like, am I about to lose my house and me and my kids gonna be on the street and have to be homeless, or am I gonna do what I gotta do? Huh?
No, but that's exactly what I'm saying. But I'm saying that's exactly what I'm saying, because if you listen to a lot of success stories, right? Remember, like Tyler Perry used to sleep in his car. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there are people that have lost their houses trying to be entrepreneurs, right? There are people that have lost everything. Like, entrepreneur is, French for risk, right? Risk, right? Taking risk, okay? So the word itself is derived from risk, right? There are people that have lost everything trying to make this dream come true. So I'm saying, like, even at that point, there still has to be a line, in my opinion, that you should not cross. That's just my opinion.
I'm just saying, I can see how some people could. You asked me, had I said no.
Right.
And I gave the example of like a situation. But I wouldn't judge somebody if that was something that they did.
Got you.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. That's what I said. Like, you gotta keep the lights on sometimes. You gotta eat. Like, nothing's black.
I give you an example too. Like, so for instance, right, when I first got into sales, I was a top performer, right? I was doing $250,000 a quarter for a display advertising company, right? At the end of the day, maybe a year into it, they bring me upstairs. They asked me to basically cut my hair. Right, wow. Basically, real shit. Like, so it's like, yo, so imagine, so imagine me being, for facts, it's a real story. So for facts, they bring me upstairs, yo, Jarrett, we love you, boom, boom, boom. Yo, we love what your numbers, but the board doesn't know you. I'm like, yo, what you mean the board doesn't know me? Like, I say, good morning, I say this, da-da-da, we go get lunch. What do you mean they don't know me? Oh, well, maybe it's your appearance. Well, this is my first time being in a professional setting. I'm dressing like I'm straight out of Catholic school. I got the baggy slacks, the Pradas on. I don't know what I'm doing, fam. I don't fucking work with me. So I'm sitting, and long story short, he basically hit me with the, yo, maybe it's your parents. So I had the braids down, on the shoulder and all that. Went home. I could have had two options. I could have said, F you, I'm not doing this. Stood on my moral compass. And guess what? I would not be here talking to you right now. I would not be 11 years in tech. I'd probably be doing something else. So that's kind of what it is. Like, even though, did I want to cut my hair? Absolutely fucking not. But I had to because my back was against the wall. So it depends where you are in that situation, what opportunities are afforded to you at that moment. And I'm going to tell you, young professional, if you got to do what you got to do, sometimes you have to go through hell to get to heaven. Sometimes you got to go through the bullshit. You have to. It's mandatory.
Especially when you're black.
Into it. Especially when you're black.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I trust me, I get it.
That's real, sis. And I want to talk about the early days of the pod, sis. Like, so when you're developing the idea, you're developing the tech. What was the process to actually get the content? Like, what was the first podcast, and what was that pitch like when you made it?
So my story is a little different. So even with Tamar's podcast, like they sought me out. I never. That's like,
dope.
Went into me.
But how does that's super dope? But how does that happen?
They call me.
That's real
like,
talk.
I mean, like, again, like, I've been in the space for a very long time, and I had a number of accolades behind my name, and the executive producer, actually, I went to Howard with.
Dope.
And she knew, like, all of the amazing content that I created, all of the people that I've worked with. And I think there's also a thing for, if you're used to working with celebrities, people know that, and you're good at it, and you're able to, I don't want to say manage celebrities, but you're able to work well with them. Yeah. Because that's a totally different skill set besides creating content for them. Yeah. Because a lot of times
that come with the celebrities.
But if you can't work with them, you're not gonna make it that long. As so when certain opportunities have been afforded to me, it's just been also because they're like, yo, like, we know your past, we know the people that you've worked with, and we know that you have the ability to also not only create great content, but also help with branding individuals as well. So yeah, I've never had to pitch a podcast or anything like that. Like, if I wanted to create it, I created it. And if it was somebody who wanted me to create a show for them, or a network or something like that, that wanted, me to do something, then they essentially have come to me. I've never said, hey, I want to, create a new show and do X, Y, Z.
Gotcha, sis. And then let's plug it right now, sis. So I think this is a perfect time to let listeners know. We're gonna have to do the plug. First of all, I also want to say that More Than a Title will be exclusively distributed by the Alive Podcast Network, season 3, season 4, moving forward. So we're gonna be doing Black-owned content. We're keeping everything in house. Everything in house. What a time!
Joined the train.
That's it. Because and I'm gonna tell you on air, sis, and being real with you, like, the reason why we wanted to, we could have been with Buzzsprout, with anywhere else, because we see your mission, we see what you're trying to accomplish, and you see what we're trying to accomplish, and there's a mutual belief in each other. And if we do this, like, I believe it's going to be big. I believe it's going to be one of the biggest networks ever. And if we can help you get there, sis, and get there with together, like, that's what I want. So I don't know Buzzsprout. I know you, Angel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you. And that's what made us want to go and rock and be like, yo, you need content, whatever. That's it.
We believe in the vision.
Facts, though.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I'm super excited to have you guys on the network, and for all the listeners to enjoy the amazing content that you guys are creating and have been creating. And then to tap into some of the other, like, Black amazing, like, podcasts that are out there that I think a lot of times people have no idea that they even exist, because they kind of just get lost in the shuffle of all the other shows out there on podcast directories. So we're super excited to have y'all. It's going to be a fun journey.
Yay.
Thanks, let's go.
Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, I just wanted to tap back in because, you know, we're so family oriented. I think this is important. I can't let this go by without touching this. Being a successful businesswoman, I know that you said you had mentioned before you got married and things of that nature. You know, how does this type of success, how does this type of work ethic, because I know you can't, it's impossible to have an 8-hour day with what you do, right? So we're talking like 10, 12, 14-hour days, right? You know, how has this been on you as a family member, right? How has this pressure and your work ethic affected your ability to be a wife, right? To be a mom and a daughter and a sister, right? You know, because I know that, you know, this is heavy stuff and it's requiring an exuberant amount of your time and your energy, you know. So how has this affected you, you know, in your life family wise?
So I'm gonna start from the good to the bad.
Okay.
So the good is I'm grateful that I have an amazing support system within my immediate family. And when I say immediate, I mean like my mom, my dad, and my siblings, right? And my kids. So like my first investor was my dad. My dad gave me $100,000 to get started, right?
I love that.
So
you gotta clap for that. 100,000 to start your business as a Black person?
Yeah. Like, so for me, that was you not just saying, oh, baby, I know you can do it. It was, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and where my heart is. And I believe in you enough that I'm going to make this investment in you because I believe that you're going to 10x this money for me. And so I want to start with that. Now, to go backwards, at the time before Alive, like I have another company called DC Media Connection that I started about 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And that company started right after like I was let go from AARP because they decided to go in a different direction. And I was there like all of the things, right? So when I started that company, it put a tremendous strain on my marriage. I was the breadwinner, and not to say that he didn't make good money. He's an engineer, so he made good money. I just made more. And it created this environment where it was still this expectation for me to go out and still bring home the same amount of money that I was making at a company that I had been working for over a decade. And so it was like, okay, well, that's not realistic. But in my mind, it was, there's not a lot of places that I'm going to go and be able to find employment to make the money that I was making. So when I made the conscious choice first, then I went to him, talked to him about it. He agreed. But the idea was, it doesn't make sense for me to keep making millions for these other entities. If I was able to do it for them, why can't I do it for me? And so when I got to that point, I explained also to my ex-husband, like, yo, like my work ethic, it hit a little different, especially if it's just me and I can only eat what I kill. Like, so it's going to be a different situation. And at first it was like, oh yeah, cool. But over time it became like, and it really wasn't about time spent or me not doing what I needed to do at home, because I always fulfilled those obligations. It just became a lack of understanding, like the grind. And if I can't talk to you about business, if I can't talk to you about what I'm going through with work and my vision, and you don't get it, we ain't gonna make it. And I think that's true whether you're a man or a woman. Like if you're with somebody and they just don't understand your hustle, they can't respect it, then it hits you in a way where you feel like you're completely in isolation and doing things outside of your marriage. Like you're in silos, like you're living a double life. Like real talk, like I had events and I was like doing all types of things. It got to the point people did not believe I was married. I had a ring every
because he was going by yourself.
I was always, and these would be my events.
Right.
So I'm so in isolation and silo by myself or with my kids that people were like, girl, no, you're not married. Like, there's no way possible that your man got you out here. You doing all of these things. Like, you in rooms with billionaires and millionaires, and he not. But over time, like, it just weighs on the relationship, and you just have to make some decisions. Like, is this the way that I want to live my life, or do I want to do what matters most to me and that I feel like is my purpose? And when I say most to me, not to say that the relationship doesn't matter, but at a point in time,
I was going there.
I saw your face. I saw your face.
Going there.
It's not that the relationship doesn't matter, but when you, in my case, the only time we would have conversations where he would ask about my company is if I got a contract, and he would just say, well, how much is that contract? That's the extent. That would be the extent of it.
Yeah, damn.
That's not it.
That's no real support.
That's tough. Yeah.
But I got divorced, so I'm good now. So I'm,
I'm glad. That's real. I'm glad you asked the question. That's so real.
That's real because, again, you touched on the fact that your mother and your father are still married, right? 4 decades, right? And you've seen them be entrepreneurs together, right? And then you get married and you go to become an entrepreneur, and you said, like, he's an engineer, but is he an engineer for his own company, or does he work for another company, right? So if he works for another company, then he doesn't have the entrepreneur mindset as you, and then the separation starts to happen. So it's important for our culture to understand that two things, right? So you gave 2 success stories. You said you can be an entrepreneur and still keep the family, because you said you've shown that with your parents, right? But it's also important to say, if you're doing something and you're being progressive and you're trying to progress something to a level that hasn't been done, then sometimes you might have to sacrifice your family dynamic to achieve that, to get there. That's very powerful,
And I think it just may be, I think it goes back. I'm gonna go a little biblical real quick. I think it just kind of goes back to being like equally yoked. If this person is like on the same level as you, they get you, they understand you, and more importantly, they allow you to be you, then it can work. But like, if people are trying to put expectations on you to execute and do and be, and that's not who you are, and you've never given off that that's who you are, then you're creating an opportunity where it's not fertile ground, and so it's not going to grow. It's not going to be sustainable.
That's real.
And
I'm glad you asked this question, bro, because the family aspect is real. Like we go through that, but nobody speaks about that, right? And I'm also curious too. How do you deal with the pressure of the first title? Does that ever weigh on you? Do you ever get to the point where you're like just laying down in bed one day and just like, damn, I've got the first woman-owned, Black-owned podcast network. What does that feel like? Like, yo, what if it's the, you know what I mean? I'm overthinking.
You can tell us if you have a little small crown by your bed that you wear at night.
No, you should. If not, we're gonna get you more than a title one. We're gonna get you with a live brand.
With a live crown. You know what I'm saying?
You feel me? But like, real talk, can you talk to us? Because I'm sure there's other people that are entrepreneurs that feel that pressure, that maybe feel like they're in isolation and feel like they've hit roadblocks. So, like, do you feel that pressure? How do you overcome that, sis? Like, any advice you would give to somebody else?
So, one of the interviews that I did almost about a year ago touched on, like, how does it feel? And I said, at the end of the day, I just wanted to work for my people. Like, if I do all of this and it's completely in vain, but I tried and I did everything in my power to make it work, then it wasn't in vain. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe that God wouldn't give me the vision that he wouldn't give me the provisions to make sure that it's successful. And so with that being said, if I have the skill set, and if all of the right people keep coming to me, and I'm using discernment with how I go about my relationships and who I allow to come close to me and who I allow to work with me and all of those different things, then there's a level of security that like puts me at ease and know that as long as I'm doing everything that I possibly can to ensure the success of and the investments, because like I said, like this hit a little different when your daddy invested in you and like, yo, I'm putting this in you and I'm telling you that I trust you with something and I'm trusting your vision and that you're going to be able to manifest it to the potential that you see it being. Then to me, that gives me a little piece that like, there's enough people who believe in me that even those moments where you have those moments of insecurity and you have those moments of like, what in the world am I doing? And why did I think that I was the person to do this? That you're reminded. And I feel like, you know, I've had those moments. And when I say I'm in a season of receiving right now, like in the last 3 weeks, the amount of like accolades and awards that have been kind of pouring into me, like it's just kind of like
you're on the right path. It's a sign.
Flowers time.
It's a sign.
Flowers
yeah.
time.
So, you know, when that happens, it's the reminder to keep going.
That's real, sis. That's real. Like I feel that, sis. And like I'm gonna tell you on the opposite side how I feel as a creator. And some people don't know how it feels, and I want listeners to understand this too. You don't know how hard it is, like especially when you get a lot of views, like 100,000 views or something like that. Like every single day, you're getting people DMing you from around the world saying how awesome you are. Mm-hmm. Do you know what kind of pressure that? Like for me, as somebody who's never had that feeling, it fucks with me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I'm just a regular dude from the ground. I'm in a fucking apartment right now. I'm cooling. Like, I'm just a regular Joe Schmo. I'm going to go outside as love. I get love in my... But for somebody in Germany, France, all these other places, all the cities around the country to be resonating, it's like, that's a lot of pressure for you to be like, yo, you know, you're going to be amazing. Really? What if I'm not? You know what I'm saying? What if I'm not amazing? Like, it's hard not to think about that, right? Like, do I create content? Am I trying to be somebody else? Is this it's so many different things. So I just want to let other people who are creators who are dealing with that, like, yes, you're gonna go through that. That's completely effing normal. But just walking your stride, like you said, you got people that support you. Like, sis, I'll be honest with you. I have no plan when I started the LinkedIn stuff. I had no plan when we started the business. And the way things have happened, it just shows it's a sign. Like for instance, like somebody asked me yesterday, I'm talking to Mary Webb. Shout out to Mary. That's my girl, the lady who created Flow from Progressive. We're talking about like brand. And she's like, what do you want in the ideal role? Now that you started your business. I'm like, yo, I wanted a blended role of sales and marketing. I'm like, there's none of that. So I started my own business. The very next day, a brand comes out and be like, yo, we want you to do a blended ass role and do this. And we're going to throw a bag at you. I'm like, the very next day, but and then how we met billionaires and all this shit from LinkedIn is like, it's just been insane. So I was just curious, sis, how you dealt with the pressure. Because I know I feel that shit too. I'm nowhere near, you know what I'm saying, where I want to be, which also leads to the next question. Like, but what does that look like for you? What does the mountaintop look like for you, sis? Like real talk. I know us winning. We win. We bring a bunch of listeners, say it pops off the way we need to pop off. What does happiness and success look like for you?
Everybody who's been rocking with me, we all rising together. Like, I don't want to be at the top by myself. I don't want to create anything where I'm here and everybody else is like down here looking at me like, oh my God, I want to get there. No, like if I'm doing it right, if I'm doing it right, anybody who's rocking with me, we're all going. So my mountaintop is everybody that's been rocking with me. We're all celebrating and we're at the top together.
That's love. That's love. But then can I play devil's advocate too?
Or at least towards the top of the summit, because everybody can't be on the top. But
that's why I was about to. Great point. I'm glad you said it. Glad you said it. But we can't take everybody.
The summit. It's only but so big. So halfway up the mountain.
Absolutely cannot take everybody. But for the people who are rocking with you, and when I say rocking with you, like alive, the way that our monetizations process is set up, it's so we're not above you. Right. We're all going. So as long as we're growing, as long as you're growing, as long as we're doing our part and you're doing your part, then it's a collaborative effort to reach the mountaintop. So it's not my peak. You're going to have your own peak, but how can I help you reach your peak? Wherever your peak is, your peak might not be my peak. That's not for me to decide. But what my goal is whatever that goal, whatever your goal is for yourself and where you want to go, how can I help you get there? And as long as I feel like I'm able to do my part to help in the propelling of like who you are and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and use the things that I've learned throughout the trajectory of my career to help you get there, then I feel like that's my responsibility. But if I can't be true to who I am, and that's the hard part, like when they say it comes with a lot of responsibility, it does. Yeah. But it also comes with a lot of heartache, because when I have a huge heart, like I'm very giving, I'm very like, like I said, I want everybody to win, but everybody don't want you to win. And so when you see those moments
hold that idea too, because I got a question for you right there.
Yeah. Okay, when you see those moments of people showing their true colors, believe them. And keep it in your mind. It's not like you gotta completely I kind of cut everybody off, but like you don't have to do that. You ain't gotta be that person, but just know and believe like it's sometimes lonely. But you know, depending on where you want to go, where you want that peak to be, if you happy with that peak right here, then rock with the crew that's with you. Because they don't want to see, not they, some people don't want to see you outshine them.
Yeah. That's very true.
I'm glad you said that, because this is, you know, I've been dying to, you know, I've been waiting for this question right here. We got to hit this. We got to hit this question. When we talk about people that don't want to see you shine, and we talk about you being a champion for the cause, and I want you to be honest, right? So you are a champion for the cause. Our people, the Black and brown people. Who do you feel? Are you feeling like you are getting the support from the people that you are championing for, or do you feel like you're getting more support from other people? Because we talked about this the other day, where it's like, I'll give you an example, like, I own a Black-owned company. Because it's Black, it don't mean it's free, right? Because it's Black, why do I got to give a 70% discount for you to deal with me when you're going to pay triple the price with a non-Black company? You understand what I'm saying? So, I want to know, how do you feel like you're championing the cause for Black and brown people? Do you feel like you're getting the support from the Black and brown people? Or do you feel like they want you to win, but now that they've seen you kind of win a little, they've tapered off and the support is kind of like wavering, and you're getting more support from, other communities out there?
So, again, I think I've been through some storms, right? And because this is not my first media company, like there have been times where I went through that, where it was like, yo, can you just do this? And I went through a season of just doing a whole bunch of stuff for free and a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't count. I did. Like when I first started, like my DC media connection, I used to like volunteer and just speak. But I will say this, it's come back to be part of the reason why I'm getting the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. Because it essentially
right.
So even though I was giving of myself freely during that season, almost 10 years later, I'm being rewarded by the President of the United States. Like, so I think that it just depends, right? Today, I feel like my people are rocking with me. I think they see the value of what's being created. I think a lot of times they've already been creating content and they're like, well, I'm already doing it, so it's worth a shot to see if I can make some money off of it. So in that regard, I'm at a different place in my career where I think people see the value and they want to support. Even all of my investors right now are all Black. With the exception of
that is huge.
Yeah.
Okay. That's dope. I wasn't expecting that. I'm not gonna lie, because oftentimes, and Jarrett will contest to this, we'll go to talk to a company and we like, listen, we're gonna ride with you and we're gonna do this with you, and we ready to grind with you, right? And we start right off the back, like, listen, we ready to just grind with you, and then halfway through they like, we ain't got no money, we ain't trying to pay. Like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, wait a minute. Like, we did 3 weeks of talking and negotiating and all that for you to try to intern the whole company? Like, what are we talking about? Like,
but it also comes with like the structuring, right? A live is structured where our hosts pay up front for the first year. So we get our money up front now.
I'm not mad at that. Well, I'm gonna try something different. And I wanted to play with this idea, but I want to do it with you. I want to do a speed round. So I'm going to just ask you 5 questions, sis, and just let me know speed. Like, first question right off the bat.
Let's go.
What show right now do you have your eye on for the Alive Network? What other show? Any show in the world do you have your eye on that's like that you would love to have a part of the network?
Actually, I want to start a show for Jennifer Hudson.
Hey,
I love Jennifer Hudson. Her story is crazy.
Crazy.
Her story is.
Yeah, I would love to start a podcast for her.
Her story's crazy.
That'll be dope. So we're gonna put that in the air. Jennifer, get in touch with the peoples with the live. Get in touch. Have your peoples contact her peoples.
Bing bong. That's a plug, Jennifer. We plugging you.
That's it. What song do you have right now in your playlist right now? What's the song that's your go-to? You need pump. You about to do a major deal. What song right now is in your joint?
What hypes you up? What hypes you up?
I love what is it? I just want to rock that song. You know what I'm talking about? What you want.
The shoulders get the moving on you.
Yes. Especially when they hit the "this ain't what you want" and be like, "Yeah, like don't come for me."
Yeah,
this ain't what you want.
Yeah, got you.
All right, two. I'm trying to fire off some too, cuz.
Listen, I want to know. Give me a guilty pleasure. Give me something that you just love to do. That when you doing it, you know it's wrong, but you just love to do it anyway. Give me a guilty pleasure. What is one of Angel's guilty pleasures?
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
That shit sounded erotica. What the hell?
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Like
Jordan, edit it out. Call HR, edit it out.
It's PG. I'm keeping it PG. Like one of my guilty pleasures is I love spicy food, right? I know I love spicy food. And sometimes, like they say, like Frank's Red Hot, like I put that shit on everything, right? So the other day we had tacos. I had Frank's Red Hot and I put jalapenos on that shit. And I knew that it was going to be good going down, but the next day I was going to pay for it. But I just can't help it. Like, I just love to spice it. I hate bland food. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's the Latin in me. You know what I mean? The Stacobano. You know, it's the pachata.
I don't know. Like, I feel like a guilty pleasure. Like
everybody got one. Don't hide behind the veil. You got to have one. Don't hit us with political.
Honestly, like, I feel like.
Is it you like the chocolate in bed or something? Come on, it gotta be something.
Like chocolate. Like I love to like. I don't know. Like I love to be on a plane. Like I will hop on a plane in a heartbeat.
Okay, traveling.
Like, change the weather.
Traveling,
yeah.
One of your guilty pleasures. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What's your biggest pet peeve in business?
Okay.
Scope creep or when people lie.
Okay. Love that.
There's so many.
No, for sure.
Let me ask you. So I know we touched on it before, but here's just straight up. Like, how many times did you get to the point? And every business owner goes through this, right? Especially as you climb the ladder. How many times did you get to the point in business where you fucking threw the pen down and was like, I quit. I'm not coming in the mall. I'm done. I'm not taking this shit no more. Like, I'm done. How many times did you get to that, like, final point? It wasn't your final point because obviously you're still here, but how many times did you feel like that pure frustration where you was just like, this is it, I am done? How many times have you felt like that?
Never. Not with Alive.
Okay.
I was just about to ask if the live.
That's her baby. That's her baby. That's why.
Yeah, because if it was at Bloomberg, shout out to Bloomberg. If it was them, it might be you might have walked out. Yeah.
I mean, I've had other, but Alive, no. I mean, I've had frustration. All of the frustration has been around like the development type stuff.
Right.
But not to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay, so this is it. So what you're saying is Alive is it, right? This is all or nothing. It's Alive or nothing, right? We all in 100%?
Oh yeah, it's all in.
That's it. All in 100%.
Well, that's it. All in. We all in. We all in together. Money.
We all in 100%. We there for the ride.
Alive. We here for the ride.
We there for the ride.
We here for the ride. We going to Pluto. Get your space boots.
Tell Elon we need the charter.
Facts. No, so I didn't even realize it was like an hour and some change, but I do want to say thank you for taking the time to come out. Like, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I'm glad that we met you at Podfest. And first of all, shout out to Podfest because that shit was amazing. We met so many dope people. We had we had an amazing time at that conference. So shout out to everybody we've met down there. We definitely keep in touch with everybody. But sis, like, I love what you're doing. You know, I want you to keep going. I want you to know we got your back. We need to see more people like yourself. I love seeing Black women doing their thing, especially and how hard it is for Black women to succeed in tech.
Yeah.
Like straight up, you got investors, you have everything. You have everything going against you. That's it.
You're double minority. You're Black and brown person and you're a woman. So you know what I mean? Like,
So I kudos your tenacity, your strength, your courage, sis. Like, we need more of this, and we're gonna champion you, sis. And if there's anything we could do to help you, we're on deck. But like, yo, we love what you're doing, sis, and we're honored to be a part of that work.
We need some alive t-shirts and some merch.
Let's do it. And I need Tamar. I'm still bumping Love and War. Tamar, I need you to stop. It's me. Stop. It's me. No, I love you, baby girl. I love you. All right, not joking.
Need a collaboration.
Nah, but
we definitely appreciate your time. We know you got a busy schedule, so we definitely appreciate you taking the time out to come do this with us and answer some of these questions. And I noticed, I'm not guessing this. I noticed for a fact there's a lot of gems that you drop, in this interview, and somebody is going to listen to it, and you will inspire the next angel. I guarantee you that. You will inspire the next angel that's already wondering and looking and feeling like, can I do it? And she's going to hear what you said, and she's going to be like, nah, I could do it. It's possible. We're going to do it. So that's dope.
Absolutely.
Kudos to you.
That's it, man. So thanks again, Angel. Thanks for everybody tuning in.
Thank you, Angel.
The comments. Thank you, y'all, for the love, man. We'll see you guys.
Congratulations on your award.
Wait a second. I gotta do my call to action. Y'all can't just cut me off and not tell people that
Plug it.
Download the Alive Podcast Network in both iOS and Android app stores, and you can follow us on social media at Alive Podcast app. And you can follow me as well at the Angel Nicole. That's THEE Angel Nicole.
And if somebody's interested in joining the network, how do they reach out to you, sis?
Yes.
They can send a note.
You answer DMs? Huh? You answer DMs?
I don't, but they can DM Alive Podcast app.
Jordan, marker that place.
Can they slide in the DM? Y'all want to be a part of Live, baby.
Like, you make me feel alive. Like, no.
Right. You make me feel alive.
No, I don't.
I'm used to that. Copyright that. You make me feel alive.
That's a nasty. Oh my God.
So how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can send an email to support@alivepodcastnetwork.com if they're interested.
All right, cool. And we're going to have all the links pop up. We're going to have everything in the comments, y'all. If y'all want to know, make sure you connect with on LinkedIn, all social channels, y'all. Y'all know where to reach it. Make sure you support, download the network, download the app, and let's get it. Feedback is appreciated. Support. This is Black owned, Black woman owned. So make it pop, man. We go as far as we take it. We got y'all. So support that, all right?